In today's video, I'll be revealing the one factor that truly determines whether or not you can afford to retire at 59 and a half, and it's not what most people think it is. Through my years of working with early retirees, I've discovered that focusing on this 59 and a half number alone creates a dangerous blind spot that either delays retirement unnecessarily, we don't want that, or it leads to early retirement disasters. So that's why I'm making this video, to not only reveal the one real factor that I believe determines the success of retirement at 59 and a half, but to also walk you through all of the important planning aspects of that 59 and a half rule, its penalties if you mess up, and what it means for the timing of your retirement. And lastly, how to know for certain with clarity if it's the right time to finally retire. We got a lot to dive into today, so let's go ahead and get started. So by now, as you're approaching retirement, you're probably familiar with the 59 and a half rule and what it is. And if you're not, no problem. Let me quickly explain. You see, when you reach the age of 59 and a half, you can finally access your IRA, your 401k, 403b, your pre-tax retirement assets without getting hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And this milestone alone, it's significant because for the first time in decades, your retirement accounts are finally accessible. Now, yes, you're still going to owe ordinary income taxes on distributions from those accounts, but the penalties are gone. And that alone right there can make it feel like you now have the green light to retire. But I want you to pump the brakes real quick. This is where most people get tripped up. They confuse access with affordability. You see, just because you technically can take the money out without penalty doesn't mean you should. See, turning 59 and a half, it gives you access, but not necessarily permission. So before we walk away from that steady and consistent paycheck and you tell your boss to, well, you say it yourself, you know what, you've got to know whether or not your plan can actually sustain the next 30 years plus of withdrawals. And that right there comes down to one thing. It's sustainable income and how much income your investments can reliably, consistently produce without the fear of ever running out of money. And to answer that, we need to look at four key pieces. And the first one is going to be, do you know your spending? This is your spending needs. How much are you spending on a given month? What's your lifestyle? Hit pause right now, get the legal pad out, add everything up. Taxes, discretionary spending, Costco, Amazon, whatever it is. Write it down. And once we arrive at that, we're going to need our withdrawal rate. That's the rate at which we're pulling money out. So it's the money we need to take from our portfolio divided by our total portfolio balance. And I made a whole video on where those numbers should be that I'll link to in the show notes. Number 3 is portfolio design and how our mix of stocks to bonds, how that shifts, it changes once we're in retirement. See, we're playing a different game. And now, rather than accumulation, we're talking now about how do we generate consistent and reliable income and how do we protect ourselves from market shocks. And so our portfolio, when we make that shift, is going to need to adjust for that. And the last one here, number 4, is having a tax plan. This is asset location and understanding which account, our Roth IRA, our 401k, our brokerage account, checking where we pull our first dollar from to pay the least amount in taxes, because each one's going to be different. Turning 59 and a half absolutely opens the door to the conversation of retirement. But before you walk through that door, we're going to need to have a plan in place that says this income is going to last as long as I do. Now, if you want me to run the math for you in your situation, click on the link in the description below and I will record for you a personalized Loom video walking you through your numbers and how to calculate them, which include knowing your withdrawal rate, understanding taxes and where to take your first dollar from in retirement, and whether or not early retirement makes sense for you. Again, click on the link below. I'll send you that video. Now, let's talk about what actually determines if you're ready to retire early at 59 and a half. And this answer, it's based on how sustainable your income plan actually is. I like to refer to this as income mapping because it's about creating a clear picture of how your money is going to flow out of your investments and into your pocket. It's a paycheck, just a different type of paycheck now that you're retired. So you've probably heard of the 4% rule. This means taking roughly 4% of your investment balance in your first year of retirement and then increasing or adjusting it each and every year to keep pace with inflation. Now, some argue that that figure can now be updated to 4.5% or 5%, which is, I completely agree with. I'm usually around the camp of 4.5%, just to keep things a little more conservative. But let's walk through an example. Now, let's say you have $1.5 million saved. So in year one, if we're going to withdraw 4.5% from our $1.5 million, that's $67,500 before taxes. Now in year two, if we adjust that figure by 3%, it's now $69,525. We do this each and every year, as you can see the numbers here on the screen, to adjust for inflation. Now, here's where I want to toss you a little bit of a curveball since we're planning on retiring before 59.5. We actually want our distribution rate to be a little more conservative. You'll see here on this chart, we want to keep it somewhere below that 4%. And why is that? Because we're fighting two enemies here. It's time and volatility. You see, the longer you're retired, the more time we're going to need our money to last. And the more time we have to experience bad and nasty market cycles. Because it's not if, it's when your portfolio eventually encounters a nasty bear market, we need to have a plan to keep our spending under control. Because if we keep spending this exact same amount, 4.5% adjusted for inflation year after year, that amount alone can drain your portfolio way faster than you expect. And these bad returns early in retirement, they're what's known as sequence of return risk. It's the danger of poor market returns early in retirement, then permanently reducing future income even well after the market recovers. So to counter this, we need to be able to have a flexible spending plan that adjusts for both when markets are strong and when they're struggling. Because spending, like I said earlier, the exact same amount every single year without looking at our portfolio or our distribution rate to see where we're at, if we're in the danger zone, is really dangerous when markets are down 15 or 20%. Again, it is one of the quickest ways to run out of money early in retirement. In fact, I actually made an entire video on this. It's the one-page financial plan on how you can calculate your spending and your withdrawal numbers each and every year or during bad markets to make sure you're not in that danger zone. So go ahead, feel free to check that out if you want to see how you have an adjustable income strategy. Now, while we're on this point, I also believe it's worth mentioning you really want to think in terms of having two budgets. Your first is your comfortable day-to-day budget. It's the lifestyle you want to live. It's eating out at more restaurants, traveling on bigger or longer vacation, whatever your plan calls for and you enjoy that you've built. This is the one that we've talked about in the first half of the video. But the second, this is your flexible budget. This is when markets are bad. This one trims 10 to 20% of discretionary items out of that budget temporarily. Keyword here, temporarily. That way, when markets pull back, your plan makes an adjustment. And it's temporary because when markets recover, we can go back to now spending the exact same amount. But again, retirement is all about having flexibility and having a plan that's adaptable to be able to create a long, sustainable, healthy retirement. Okay? Makes sense? Any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or click on the link in the description and I will send you a personalized Loom video walking you through your scenario. So now that we've covered the most important factors that you'll need to consider for an early retirement at 59.5 and how having two budgets, depending on how markets perform, can add confidence and resilience to your retirement game plan, now the question becomes, how do you actually get your money out of those investment accounts without getting crushed in taxes? Because where you take your first dollar from really matters. And remember, if you're under the age of 59.5, well, we have fewer options. Our options are a lot more limited because that 10% early withdrawal penalty from our IRA, well, it applies. Now, once we hit that magic age of 59.5, the whole toolbox opens up. IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, brokerage accounts, checking, saving, whatever. It all becomes available. And now this is where we get really nerdy and technical, but efficient and strategic into strategy. Let's first, before we dive into this any further, let's first revisit each of the different types of investment accounts and how they're taxed, because each one's going to be taxed differently. So we have our cash, our high yield savings, our CDs, no taxes on distributions. Sure, your Interest is going to be taxed as ordinary income, but that's secondary. Next, we have capital gains. And you'll see here on the chart, I love this one because depending on where your taxable income is, if you're single, it's about $48,000. If you're married, it's about $96,000, give or take. And if it's below that, your taxable income, your capital gains are taxed at 0%. But for most folks, they fall in the 15% category, still really good. Because the next one, if we take distributions from our IRA here, that's ordinary income. Same with our 401k, 403b. And then lastly, we have the Roth, everybody's favorite. And so to build a plan, a distribution plan, we first have to solve for, you guessed it, taxes. What is your game plan going to be here? Is it keeping taxes lower for future healthcare and Medicare premiums, or keeping your taxes lower to do Roth conversions? Now, that is only a question that you can answer for your own plan. But for me and the work that we do at our firm with our clients, we like to first start by looking at what tax brackets our clients are going to fall into based off of how much they need to pull from their investment account. So we'll figure that out and figure out where to take the first dollar from. And then once we've arrived at that, we're going to solve for a technique called bracket filling. That's saying how much more room do we have available in this respective bracket? Maybe it's the 10 or the 12% bracket to figure out, do we want to take more distributions? Do we want to do Roth conversions or something known as capital gain harvesting? Again, if they're in a low enough tax bracket to reset their basis. Now, regardless, the biggest thing to remember is that taxes matter and we have to have a strategic withdrawal plan. That's how we take the money out, because having that will literally, promise you here, add years to how long your money lasts for. Because when it comes to taxes, it's not about what you earn, it's what you keep. And we need to have that plan. So now that we understand the importance of a spending and a distribution strategy, if you still have questions and you're wondering whether your specific situation supports retirement at 59 and a half, go ahead and click on the link below and we will send you a personalized Loom video analyzing your circumstances and showing whether or not you can retire early. Once you've built your plan, the last piece of the puzzle is to test it. And this is where people stop way too soon. They build the plan or they purchase the plan and then they never update it. It becomes a coffee table book. But the truth is, financial planning is a verb. It's not a one-time document. Your financial plan should move, breathe, change, and adapt with your life. So we need to remember to revisit and stress test those plans, those distributions, at least either once a year or anytime markets or major life circumstances in your life dictate that. So this is how you stay on course and avoid letting any arbitrary age or drift dictate your decisions. We got to go back and update that plan and understand how our spending changes. We save the technical stuff for last. And you may be wondering, hey, what if I want to retire before 59 and a half? Well, first, it's very doable, but we have to know the right levers to pull. And there's a few ways we can make it happen. Now, again, we have that early 10% withdrawal penalty if we're retiring before 59 and a half. So a couple of these are going to be ways to avoid that. And then the other ones are ways to create flexibility. Now, the first one is the rule of 55. If you leave your job at 55, you keep your 401k there with your employer plan rather than rolling it out to an IRA. And you're now able to access your 401k with taxes, but not penalties at 55. The next one, 72T distributions. These are structured withdrawals from an IRA that spread our income out evenly to avoid that 10% penalty. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a couple catches. Once we start that 72T distribution plan, we have to keep taking those withdrawals for either at least 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever is longer. If we start at age 50, we have to continue to 59 and a half, again, whichever is longer. Whereas if we start at 57, we have to continue taking till age 62, a minimum of 5 years, again, whichever is longer. And here's the catch. If we stop or change that schedule, the IRS doesn't look favorably at it. They will retroactively apply that 10% penalty to all withdrawals we took under the plan plus interest. A third option that you have available to you for early withdrawals, Roth IRA contributions. Remember, you made these contributions into a Roth IRA with your after-tax money. And so they're always available to you at any time, penalty-free. So we should be keeping track of what are our contributions and what's our growth. But we can access those contributions again at any time, penalty-free. And lastly, my favorite, it's the brokerage account. This is the most flexible account when it comes to early retirement. Unlimited contributions, no time limits on distributions, and it's taxed at capital gains. And if you're watching this in your 40s or 50s, this is your window to build that flexibility and start making all those contributions, because the key to an early and successful retirement plan is having money spread out amongst your taxable brokerage account, a Roth, pre-tax accounts, because it gives you options later in life. And that's the secret to retiring early without any surprises, because poor implementation, it can destroy even the best well-funded retirement plan. So now that we understand why 59.5, it's just an arbitrary number. It's access to an important milestone to avoid that 10% penalty, but it's nothing more than that. It's not an actual retirement indicator. What's more important is having a sustainable withdrawal plan. Understanding, can our plan support retirement at this age? How much can we actually afford to spend? And making decisions based on facts rather than an arbitrary age. If you want help evaluating whether or not retiring at 59.5 makes sense for you in your specific situation, and developing the income strategies that enable sustainable early retirement, click on the link in the video below and we will send you a personalized Loom video analyzing your circumstances and showing you the optimal timing for your retirement goals. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.